Hey coin collectors, Dan the Collecting Man here. Today I want to go through what are some of the best ideas for storing your gold. So with gold going at all-time highs and a lot more people are now getting into gold ownership, I thought I'd go through some of the key things that I've learned when it comes to storage of gold and some of the things not to do. So I'm going to start first with what not to do. Some of the key things that, some mistakes that I've seen people do and heard some of the stories that are out there. And I think the first one is people buy safes from hardware stores. So they think they've got a bit of gold that's quite expensive, something like this, like an ounce of gold that is of around $5,000, and they want to keep that kind of safe. So they get a safe from a hardware store and then put it into their wardrobe in their house, at the bottom of the wardrobe, at the top of the wardrobe. Now that's where criminals go first off. When they come to their house, they normally know people keep precious items in a wardrobe somewhere, and they normally know that the hardware store style safes are very easy to break into. Often you can go onto YouTube and find a video on how to hack into those. They're often got, sometimes they've got a fire rating, but often they don't even have a fire rating. So they're quite easy to break into. So probably key number one, do not buy a safe from a hardware store and do not put it in the wardrobe. Next one is to take photos of it. Often some people like to take photos of their products and where they've stored it for safekeeping, but then that photo can often show a location, and if someone hacks into your phone, they can actually see where you've kept it as well. So that's another key thing. And to not tell people. I think it's exciting, especially at the moment. You know, if you've held gold like me for a while and you get all excited seeing how much value you've had, you're like, oh, I've got all this gold, and you bring it out and you show people, and then you start to tell people where you've got it. I'll just go to my wardrobe and get it straight away. Those people often, you might feel are safe, but they might tell a friend, oh, my mate, he's got all this gold, you should see how much he's got. And then the message starts going until you get to, unfortunately, someone that's a bit unscrupulous and may look to take advantage of that if they think it's easy and they know when you work and those kind of things. As much as it's exciting to own gold and you feel like right now, especially with the gold price going up, that you've got yourself a good return, be very, very careful on who you tell. So I'll go through that a little bit at the end. So I think some of the key things that is beneficial with gold is it's small. So this is 1 ounce of gold, probably no more bigger than around a 50-cent coin right now. And this is $5,000 of gold. So really, really neat. And as you can see here, you got this is a gold bar at 1 ounce. So they're nice and small and easy places. It's like a credit card size. So nice and easy credit card that you can almost put in your wallet, but this is like a coin. So that's a great beneficial thing with gold, is it is very, very small. You can see some of these smaller pieces. Here's a 1 gram coin here. You can see the size of my finger. It's absolutely tiny, but this is a 1 gram coin of gold. So gold has that benefit of being small, which means it's easy to hide in plain sight, as it's saying. So you can definitely put it in some really fun places that is going to be very, very hard for people to find. So I'll go through some of the key different ideas that I've heard. Now, everyone has their own setup and different risk portfolio, so you need to take this information and make it work for you. Just because I'm saying it, these are ideas, but you need to make sure you take your own risk into considerations, obviously, when you store gold. So I think some people I've heard of doing it in a freezer. Often they put it in a little thing inside the freezer, so it looks like it's a bit of a bread. They get an old bread bag, put it in a little container in the freezer. Now the risk I've heard of that is often sometimes someone's cleaned out the freezer, thought that it was a bit of an old bread and chucked it out, and then ended up having to get the bin emptied to get their gold back out. So there is a risk making sure that people that do use that freezer actually know that it's stored there safely and not to accidentally chuck it out. But that is definitely a good place, because that's often where less burglars are going to look at. The next one is in a shed. So if you've got a little gardening shed or a little tool shed, to put it in somewhere that's less obvious, not in a tool set or tool box, because often burglars do like getting the tools because they can resell the tools, especially like your good drills and things like that. They want to sell those. But somewhere where you keep your screws and all those kind of places within a shed, in a tub that's probably looks like it's got some junk in it, that's probably a place that is a little bit safer to keep in your shed. There's less likely to go through all the tubs and containers within the shed, so it might be an old can sitting around that looks like it's a bit beaten up. I've heard of people putting it in barbecues and all those kind of things, because they're not going to be opening up and looking inside barbecues. So those kind of fun little places like that. Empty books, you see those little books that have been cut out and opened up and put in there. They're often something, so just be careful with that, because often burglars do knock everything off a shelf to try and see if there's anything hidden in there. So just be careful of that location. But that is another unique thing. As you can see, gold is very, very small, and you can keep it in a nice little spot. The next one is gardening, and this is probably one of the most popular ones, is in the garden. So sometimes they can put it in the bottom of a planter pot. So if you've got a planter pot, and you can put it underneath, because it doesn't matter really if gold gets wet from that aspect. It's come from the ground, and when you go to sell it, especially at a bullion dealer, it doesn't matter from that aspect if it's dirty or scratched or dinned. Some of the more collectible pieces, obviously you're not going to do that, but some of the more cheaper ones that are just pure gold, absolutely fine to do that kind of stuff with it. It's probably a good thing. Some people I've known even to put it, dig a hole and even put it in the ground. Now, some ideas for that is, you get those thermoses that you can get to put your soups in, and you can take it to work. They're really, really handy to be able to put products in there, then dig that up and put that in the ground. So that's another good storage idea. But snap lock containers and all those kind of things, just to help it keep it a little bit clean. I said it doesn't have to be clean, but it just helps from that aspect for a long-term storage. And often when you do that, get some of these little bags that get rid of the moisture. They're really handy to put in there as well, just to keep it clean. And you're never going to see a burglar going around digging up bits of your lawn or your backyard or things like that. So that's probably a more common idea. Also, get yourself a good safe. So if you want to get a safe, make sure you get yourself a good one that is cash rated. So that's a different thing you got to look at for. Often they're cash rated, and that means how much kind of insurance you'd have if it was to be broken into. And often the higher the cash rating means it's harder to be broken into, and the more that safe company is willing to repay you if your safe did get broken into. Then you also want to get one that is fire safe, because obviously gold can melt at a certain heat, and normally when you have a house fire, that house fire will go higher than that, so you could actually end up melting it. So putting it in a roof of a house, albeit it'll be harder to find, if you have a fire, you're potentially going to lose all of that gold that you have there, because it's going to melt all around it. You're not going to be able to find it. So I wouldn't recommend putting it in a roof of a house, because if there's a fire, you are most likely going to lose all that gold, and it's not going to be traceable again, so you're going to lose that value. Maybe putting it in the ground is a little bit safer from that fire risk. So under floorboards is definitely a good one. In furniture, sometimes people can unscrew legs and bore it out and put something in there, or under drawers and all sorts of things. Just as long as a burglar, when they come along and knock it over, things like that, it's not going to be found and easy. False walls are another great one. If people have got false walls when they've got heat events and all those kind of things, putting it in those kind of places is definitely another one. Or external to your home. So a safety deposit box at a bank, or some of those kind of Fort Knoxes and those kind of places that they have those little boxes so they can sleep at night and not worry about someone coming to their house. So those kind of storage boxes. But just be careful that you make sure you don't tell them exactly what you're putting in there, because you never know, there might be some crooked staff working in there as well. Probably the safest place, and the place that I prefer the most, is bullion dealers. So there are some really good bullion dealers. I personally use Bullion now. They do have storage capacity to have that. So depending on the weight, they can do a certain amount, and you pay a small fee for that, and it's not too much. So that's probably one, if you're worried about it and you've got a large quantity, people often do put it in bullion dealers as well, and then you can sleep at night not worrying about it. The other key thing is to try and keep it dry, especially like if you've got more collectible pieces. Things like these that come in special boxes, often have to store them separately, because I can't just put them in places that are a bit easier to find, but just making sure they're kept as safe as well. But keeping them dry, especially the collector pieces. And the last thing is to be careful on who you tell. So it is important to tell someone that you do have some gold stored in a certain location. So if something was to happen to you, at least it's not going to go to waste, and it can be passed on to other kids and other people. So maybe your loved one, your partner, and maybe one other person. So if your partner and yourself were in a car accident, at least you got that one other person. But be careful on who you tell, because I know I've got certain family members that are a bit of a have-a-chats and do love to tell everyone everything, and I would never ever trust telling them where it is, because I just know, even with good intention, they might accidentally tell someone this because they're excited and they like to talk about it. So you have to be really careful on who you tell, and making sure that you're comfortable that they are not going to say, and especially even kids, I would be careful with, especially the younger kids, because they might go to school and tell their friends that your dad's got a lot of gold, your mum's got a lot of gold, and they keep it in the sock drawer or something like that. So just be careful with who you tell and how you tell it. But they're the key things that I wanted people to know, is to be really careful around that. And I think the key thing is around who you tell and don't tell, because if people don't know that you own it, there's less likely people are going to come to try and find it. That's one of the key reasons why I have a faceless YouTube channel, is for the security of myself and my family, to make sure people don't know that I own this and do this. So chuck in the comments down below if you've got any other ideas or fun ideas, not your ideas, because obviously they might give away where you store things, but just other ideas that you've heard as well, help people store their gold in a safer location. And give us a thumbs up if you found this informative. There is a link down below to shout out to buy me a coffee if you found this really helpful. And make sure you do subscribe to Dan the Collecting Man to stay up to date and to get informed of all things coin collecting and a bit of bullion as well, if that's something that you're interested in. And as always, thanks so much for watching and joining the coin collecting community. I'll catch you in my next video. Dan.